From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Burn rubber or buy beef?
So we've got consumers that are feeling the real tight crunch of the wallet.
The tough choices facing consumers in the beef aisle as prices rise at the pump. Drought, high winds, how has it impacted the hard red winter wheat crop? What this year's wheat tour is finding. And are planters finally up and running in the northern plains?
I think we still got a few days yet.
We get an update as farmers race against the clock right now on AgDay. Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Planting is starting to pick up pace, but several states are still way behind and a big deadline is looming. This morning, we're focusing on Minnesota, one of the states most behind in planting. USDA at last report saying that the state is 35% behind in seeding corn. For soybeans, it's 11% behind. AgDay national reporter Michelle Rook joins us. And Michelle, Minnesota really behind the eight ball when it comes to spring wheat planting, with just 5% now planted, 70% behind the 5-year average.
That's right, Clinton. And with yet more moisture in the forecast this week, that could push things back further. The situation is much the same in neighboring North Dakota, where only 4% of the corn crop is planted, well behind the 41% average. Jim Willer's farms in southwest Minnesota and says while planting is behind, they've been a little drier than the rest of the state. So he'll finish corn well ahead of his crop insurance deadline of May 31st and his optimal planting window.
If I would have got done by tomorrow night like I was hoping, then I would have been fine. So time will tell, but I think we still got a few days yet, probably till the 20th.
Spring wheat planting delays are more of a concern, with Minnesota only 5% done, 70% behind normal. North Dakota is at 17% versus 60% normally. With the final planting dates in those states ranging from May 15th to June 5th, there will likely be some prevent plant.
On spring wheat, I think we could easily see somewhere around 500,000, maybe 750,000 acres go towards just prevent plant wheat.
That will take a big bite out of the 11.2 million acres farmers intend to plant nationally, as Minnesota and North Dakota account for 2/3 of U.S. spring wheat production. So, Clinton, it's likely USDA will be making some downward adjustments in their estimates in upcoming WASDE reports.
And planting could face further delays with downright cold conditions on the way for the Northwest. Meteorologist Matt Yurosavik takes a closer look. Matt?
Yeah, that's right, Clinton. There's going to be some colder air with even some snow up in portions of the Rockies. But as this storm system moves across parts of the upper Midwest, you're going to see that severe weather threat there across portions of Minnesota into the upper Midwest. And then it gets going across really from portions of Michigan all the way down through the Great Lakes and into parts of Texas as that cold front kind of advances eastward through Friday. That will bring a couple of tornadoes along with it, some damaging winds possible along that cold front, and even some hail that could be possible. So here's a look at that system right here. There's that severe weather threat through the first part of Thursday evening. You can see a lot of those storms there. And then as that cold front moves eastward, you'll get another chance for stronger storms there heading into Friday evening and early Saturday as well. And behind this storm system, cooler air. You can see 80s and 90s here, but by tomorrow morning and into the afternoon, we're going to slowly start to see all of that move eastward. But in some places of the northern plains, planting is finally getting underway. Elizabeth Amundsen of Rugby, North Dakota, sharing this beautiful picture of the planter at her farm putting seed in the ground. Hopefully that trend will continue because the last report, just 4% of the corn crop was planted in the state, and usually they're about 41% planted right now. I'll have more on your forecast coming up.
Some rain earlier this week helped firefighters battling the largest wildfire in New Mexico state history. More than 2,000 personnel are fighting the so-called Hermit's Peak Canyon fire in the Sangre de Cristo mountain range south of Taos. The blaze, fueled by high winds and drought conditions, it has torched an area almost the size of Los Angeles. It started more than 40 days ago after the U.S. Forest Service failed to contain a controlled burn designed to prevent larger wildfires. The wildfire and the danger for more has prompted the state's Santa Fe National Forest to close to the public starting today and will remain closed to the end of this year. And the drought is a theme showing up at this year's wheat tour. On day one of the tour for the Wheat Quality Council, scouts found an average yield of 39.5 bushels an acre. The tour traveling at that time through the northern areas of Kansas. That number is down from 59.2 bushels an acre in the same region last year, and the 5-year average of 46.9. Scouts reporting much of the wheat sampled on multiple routes from Manhattan to Colby was shorter than normal, and plant populations were sparse in the driest fields. USDA estimating the HRW crop at just 590 million bushels. This would be the smallest since 1963. Crews continue to make progress, chipping away at the West Coast port's backlog. At last report, the Marine Exchange of Southern California reporting the container ship backup at the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach now stands at 35. But could we see more port backups soon as China eases COVID lockdown restrictions? The executive director of the Port of Los Angeles says the port hasn't seen a big drop in cargo coming in due to those lockdowns in Shanghai. In fact, he reports that April was the port's second best in its history. And as we've reported, the import issues are also causing export issues for U.S. agriculture products. We spoke with Dean Meyer of the U.S. Meat Export Federation, who says despite the supply chain crunch and logistic problems, exports are still strong.
It's amazing how well that red meat exports have flowed through there despite all the issues we've had. It could be a lot better. I mean, this shipping act that was passed by the House and the Senate, I mean, we've got to get that to conference and get that signed. I mean, each little step helps.
Meyer referencing the Ocean Shipping Act, lawmakers need to hold a conference on the bill to resolve differences between the two houses before it can go to the president, who is expected to sign it. An effort is underway to help address a looming worldwide food security crisis made worse by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The U.S. Treasury, along with several global development banks and other groups, unveiling a multi-billion-dollar plan. Those groups saying several global development banks are, quote, working swiftly to bring to bear their financing policy engagement technical assistance to prevent starvation prompted by the war, rising food costs, and climate damage to crops. Now, they report tens of billions will be spent supporting farmers addressing the fertilizer supply crisis and developing land for food production. The announcement comes ahead of G7 finance minister meetings taking place this week in Germany. Iowa is now the first state in the nation to require most gas stations to sell fuel with at least 15% ethanol. Iowa Republican Governor Kim Reynolds signing it into law earlier this week. Now, the signing ceremony taking place at a farm near Prairie City, about 20 miles east of Des Moines. Reynolds calling it a victory for Iowa farmers and biofuel advocates. It's estimated the ethanol industry consumes about half of Iowa's corn crop. And it's believed soybean oil will also be a big driver for the future of energy. And to that end, Cargill announcing plans to build a new soybean processing facility. It will be located in Pemiscot County, Missouri. That's in the southeast part of the state. Once opened, it's expected to have an annual production capacity of 62 million bushels of soybeans. Cargill expecting to break ground on the project early next year and have the plant up and running in 2026. It was a mixed day for lean hogs, one of the few markets with any positives. We'll have details about pork prices coming up next. And later, an elementary school roundup. See how these calves ended their police pursuit in Indiana, in the country. An update on an ag company recently hit by a ransomware attack. AGCO providing details on efforts to restore its systems following the attack earlier this month. AGCO is a worldwide manufacturer and distributor of ag equipment and infrastructure. Says a majority of the production sites and parts operations impacted are back up and running. The company did say some data was stolen during the attack. It says no privacy protected consumer information was lost, but it's still evaluating the scope and consequences of the loss. The company says it expects to recover fully by increasing production over the rest of the year. There was red nearly across the board, from financials to fibers. Let's get some perspectives on why from a trader working with the CME.
Well, after hitting record territory this week, July wheat futures falter on the opening. It appears that perhaps news flow coming from India and the potential that they may soften their stance on a complete export ban of wheat in that country really did help the bear's case today. That said, the heat wave in India continues to go on, definitely compounding supply woes around the globe. Some of the worst countries right now are Ukraine, Australia, and Morocco, who's down to 2007 levels. The bright spot, production-wise, would be both Canada and Russia.
One of the few commodities to see any positive moves during the Wednesday session was lean hogs. AgDay's Michelle Rook returns for the look at the macro movers in pork markets.
Joining us with market analysis is Joe Koima. Let's talk about this hog market. Contract highs a few weeks ago. We've had a huge correction. Why the big correction, Joe?
I think we had a big premium structure, especially in the summer months there. We did see that hog and pig report, which a lot of times you can have a market fail on the best news, and I think that was part of it. We saw the premium there, and we finally knew why we were there, and then we just had a big fun sell-off with it. We're getting a chart that looked pretty nasty here lately, and it feels like we're getting close to the throes of the bottom. We had that big head and shoulders formation on the charts, and this kind of projects to this area. You don't like to see it here at all because usually we're talking about the summer months having a big premium to where the cash market is and the cutout. Now you're actually having a discounted market to where the front cash market is as high as 112 to 114.
But we still know there's very tight supplies, a lot of empty barns, and so what do you think? Are we going to go back up and retest those contract highs at some point or not?
It feels like that's it could be kind of far-fetched here. Right now we want to make a little base hits here and there, but from what I gather today and this week, is we're still having a pretty active response from the packers looking for cash hogs. So as far as the fundamentals go, it does feel like we're still pretty tight. We just kind of had to go through one of those washout scenarios.
In demand, is that held up here because we've had COVID concerns in China and whatnot kind of hitting the market?
That was certainly that was part of the washout too. We certainly kind of had to take that into stride, but I would say in comparison to beef and to pork and to chicken, put all three together, we're still very comparative in value.
All right, thanks Joe for that analysis today. Joe Koima joining us, and more Ag Day coming up.
It's time to sign up for the 2022 United Pork Americas Conference in Orlando, Florida. Register today at unitedporkamericas.com and join us September 7th through the 9th.
The World Meteorological Organization says the last 7 years were the warmest on record for the Earth. Now that organization is tied into the United Nations. Officials there claim that sea levels rose twice as fast for the 10 years ending in 2021 compared to the previous decade. They say overall last year temperatures rose about 1 degree Celsius above pre-industrial temperatures. But they say 2021 was not the hottest on record because La Nina had a cooling effect. Now, speaking of heat, that's generally a driver for severe weather, and we've got some places to be watching.
Yeah, and we've got a big cold front. That's what's causing some of this severe weather. Very hot and humid conditions in the southeast, and much cooler air following this system across the center of the country. And this will be that severe weather threat for today, again from places in the Carolinas all the way back through parts of Tennessee and into Missouri along a warm front and then back up to the north. This is where a storm system is going to get going, bringing that cold front east, colder air behind it, warmer air out ahead of it, and we're going to see that chance for some severe weather there as well. This is that severe weather threat as we head through the day on Friday, though, all the way from northern Michigan, parts of Wisconsin, right through Indiana, Illinois, and all the way down into parts of Texas, right along that cold front as it begins to advance eastward. That's going to keep that chance for some stronger storms possible and could even be affecting parts of the mid-Atlantic states as we head into the weekend. So here's a look at that precipitation. Not a lot going on initially with that cold front, though, as that moves east. It is going to be bringing some heavier downpours and some showers, and then staying unsettled from Denver, parts of the Rockies up there to the Pacific Northwest, and that's going to continue as we head through the weekend as well. So here's a look at that surface map. This warm front, again, one source of those severe storms. Another one is this storm system up here to the north, and you can kind of see as this one gets going right here in the warm sector, portions of Minnesota, that's where the chance for some stronger storms thunderstorms is likely as we head through Thursday evening. And then right north of this low along that warm front, most of the country, though, under sunny skies. It's just mainly those two systems. And then we've got some moisture back there to the west, which could be some higher elevation snow for portions of the Rockies. And again, the cooler air coming in on the backside of this cold front, which is going to be that chance for severe weather as we head into the day on Friday. Notice how long it is with the dry line down to the south and then just the upper low spinning over the northern Rockies, bringing some higher elevation snow showers there and then some pop-ups down there in Florida. Very warm out ahead of this system, 80s, 90s, and even triple digits, and then very humid as well. And you can see the cooler air on the backside. That will begin to move eastward with 80s and 90s out ahead of it as we head into the weekend. That's a look around the country. Now let's take a look at the weather where you live. Crossville, Tennessee, warm and humid with scattered thunderstorms, a high of 83 degrees. Mankato, Minnesota, showers and thunderstorms, likely a high of 81. And Great Falls, Montana, mostly sunny, a few showers late in the day, a high of 53.
Up next, will high gas prices change which cuts of beef people buy at the store? The experts weigh in next.
Got equipment to sell privately but tired of scams and hassles? Visit MachineryPete.com and click Sell Mine. MachineryPete.com, the simple and secure way to buy and sell equipment online. Drover's Report on AgDay is brought to you by Long Range Apridomectin. If you're committed to peak performance, there's only one choice for your dewormer, Long Range Apridomectin. It's the first and only dewormer to offer up to 150 days of parasite control in one convenient dose.
Drivers in every state are now seeing gas prices above $4 a gallon for the first time ever, and it's already causing shoppers to change what they are buying at the grocery store. That includes beef. Data from AAA shows the average price for a gallon of gas is above $4 a gallon in all states across the country. And with the start of the summer driving season, prices aren't expected to retreat anytime soon. Miden Marketing surveyed consumers earlier this year and found 55% of shoppers were already changing their shopping habits due to inflation and rising costs. Danette Amstein telling AgDay consumers aren't shying away from the meat altogether, but many are opting for less expensive items like hamburger meat instead of pricier cuts of steak.
So we've got consumers that are feeling the real tight crunch of the wallet. And what they're doing is they're trading down. They're staying in meat right now. They haven't traded out. We don't want them to leave meat, but they're trading down to less expensive items. We also have a small segment of our economy of consumers that are still doing well and not feeling that pinch, and they're buying the premium items. So what you're seeing is this divergence of most of us looking, okay, that might look more expensive than last time, and so I'm gonna look at some other options here beside it. But we also see steaks doing well. We see Prime, USDA Prime doing well.
Amstein saying during the recession back in 2008 and 2009, consumers didn't give up meat altogether either. She says there was a small dip in overall red meat consumption, but the majority of shoppers continue to splurge on steak and other higher priced meat items, just less frequently, like on the weekends. Gene-edited livestock continue to make waves. Now the Food and Drug Administration has determined that cattle with modified genes are safe to eat. The FDA looking at livestock edited for a slick hair coat to help them adapt to hot weather. The genomic alteration was done using CRISPR technology. After a scientific review, the FDA says the marketing of products, including food, from 2 genome-edited beef cattle and their offspring does not raise any safety concerns or is low risk. Meat from these cattle could reach customers in the next couple of years. Now, the administration's Center for Veterinary Medicine says they expect this decision to encourage more companies to bring animal biotechnology products forward. The FDA has already approved 5 other intentional genomic alterations, including a line of goats, chickens, salmon, rabbits, and most recently, pigs. Speaking of the next generation, we're headed to Indiana, where police take custody of these baby calves out on the lam in the country. A lesson in livestock this week for a bunch of people after some calves got loose. Police in Goshen, Indiana, putting these pictures on Facebook along with the following quote. They say these calves were hoping to move to a home with greener pastures, but unfortunately, Waterford Elementary School's playground was not it. Officers arrived and asked them to move along. It's not every day you get called out to something as utterly funny as this, end quote. Now, the owner of the calves told us they are 4-H animals and the gate didn't lock right at their farm nearby. The calves managed to walk about a mile overnight, ending up at the local school. They are now back home, safe and sound. And that's all of our time this morning. Sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day out in farm country.